Karoly Lorant z Węgier i temat będzie sposób na bardziej sprawiedliwe finansowanie w Unii Europejskiej.
First of all, I should like to thank for the invitation. I am very glad to be here because I have heard a lot of excellent lectures, and I have learned already a lot, and I hope that during the lectures of tomorrow I will also learn more. And I'm also very glad that there are people who probably was born after the systemic change, and even they don't know what was before, only from textbooks or from the school. And it is very interesting that there are so young people already who already has grown, who actually had no experience from the last system. From my experience, it comes that I will have a broader approach to the problem. I was a learned Spanish. I in the Central Planning Office of Hungary, so I have experience with the whole economy, and also, as I mentioned in the morning, I was for 7 years in the European Parliament, and I dealt with the European questions. So a little bit it will determine my lecture. Let me begin. At first, when I was called to come to the country and to come to this conference, I was told that I have to speak about positive money. And I couldn't imagine what does it mean, positive money, because I think that if I have some money in my pocket, it is positive. You know, that what could be the negative money? Probably if I owe to somebody. And then I read the papers of the positive money group for England, and I finally understand what it is about. And the problem what they raised with the nowadays money system, the high personal debt and the affordable housing, the worsening inequality, I think they have their origin not only in the monetary system, but from the characteristics of the whole European Union, from our economic policy, and especially from the treaties. So it needs a more general approach, and I try to give at least something more. It is only really interesting something what is written on this screen now, that the indebtedness problem is not very new. Believe it or not, more than 4,000 years ago it was already a problem. And the first debt cancellation, you are from Poland mainly, and you know, even if you are very young, that there was some debt cancellation for Poland at the beginning, after the systemic change, you know, probably. But this experience goes back more than 4,000 years. And even in the Bible, you probably know the Bible, there is a Jubilee year, the year of Jubilee. It means that after 50 years, the slave should be free, and everybody can return to his family. And it was also written more than 2,000 years ago. And the last sentence I would like to read it, because it is very true up to the present. The rich ruleth over the poor, and the borrower is a slave to the lender. So I was in the planning office that Hungary began to borrow abroad, and I was very much against it. Because originally I'm an electrical engineer, which means that I can calculate. So I calculated, and I was a long-range planner. I calculated that borrowing money means only net borrowing for 3-4 years after the repayment, the interest rate will surplus what we can borrow. So it means that it will be very limited time, and I try to explain to everybody. Nobody listened to me, and Hungary went into the debt, and we have not the brave politicians to cancel this debt when there was a possibility after the systemic change. So it is an old problem of us. But I spoke about the Hungarian indebtedness, but there is indebtedness which is the consequence of the noise financial system. Is also a problem between the European countries. Since the introduction of the euro, substantial inequalities developed between the countries, and it can be thanks to the German policy, which makes in every year the mercantile, if I say in a good way, policy of Germany, which makes 200 billion euros surplus in every year in its trade balance. It means that the European Union is a more or less closed economy. It means that if Germany has a surplus, somebody has a minus. So it means that somebody is running into debt, and I should like to show some statistical data about it. You see this, what this chart says. You can see that the balance of the current account, you can see the so-called core countries. Core countries means Germany, Netherlands, and some countries in the northern part of Europe. And the southern territory means Greece, Portugal, and so on, and the eastern territory, us. So you can see that the poor countries, especially first of all Germany, produced a lot of surplus, and the southern territory and the eastern territory a lot of minus in their current account balance. It means that they were running into debt. In the latest time, the southern territory improved its current account balance. The current account balance, trade balance, and some trade services and income together. They improved, but the price for this improvement was that their economic development slowed down because of the austerity measures. A little bit more statistics. Because of these inequalities in the current account, countries ran into debt. You can see there is Greece, where the next external debt amounts some, in the latest year, amounts some 140% of the GDP. But also other countries from the periphery running debts, and the debts went up high. And in the meantime, Germany has a negative debt naturally. So it means that the European Union fell into the two parts, the debtor and the creditor countries, and they had difficulties to arrange this problem. And probably the last statistics about it, this means that it is about the income flow among or between European countries, European Union countries. This data comes from the Eurostat balance of payment statistics, and it shows and it relates to some more than 10 almost 20 years. If you look at this chart, you can see that from the periphery, the income goes to the center. So this is what characterizes nowadays the European Union. From the poor countries, the income goes to the rich countries. And I think that this is the course which we have to change somehow. So indebtedness naturally go a bit already we were talking about that liberalized financial markets will lead to such kind of indebtedness. I want to remind you that after the big financial crisis of the last century, some part of the politicians decided to prevent in the future. And in the United States, there was an act, the very famous Glass-Steagall Act, which restricted affiliation between commercial banks and security firms. And similar laws were introduced also in Europe. And this regulation, accompanied with the so-called Keynesian policy, produced a very good economic development without bigger crisis. You can see this chart once again, and it is very interesting, and it is worthwhile to see. If you see it before the Second World War, when there was no regulation, you can see that the year-to-year growth it goes up and down, and its amplitude is very high. After the regulation, after the Second World War, for a long time, the differences, the maximum and minimum, between the maximum and minimum are rather small, and the average growth rate is relatively high, close to 5%. So it means that this regulation and Keynesian policy gave a good possibility to develop our economy. And after, you know, that the 80s, there came this financial liberalization, this neoliberal policy, and the Glass-Steagall Act in the United States was repealed by the so-called Graham-Leach-Bliley Act. It was at the end of the 90s, and the financial deregulation went around in Europe. And this was what caused this financial crisis and the decrease in the economic growth. And but something else also happened, and this something else in that time was the introduction of the common currency. What was the goal with the common currency? I think that there was at least two goals. One is a political. The political goal was that there will be ever closer union. This sentence that ever closer union was written already in the Treaty of Rome, so it is very old. But now it was introduced in this way, and politicians look at the euro as the symbol of the European integration. So it is not, it has not only economic significance, but first of all political significance. Supporters of the euro promised everything. You can see there in the list that higher economic growth, lower unemployment, and so on. You know that none of this happened in the reality. The euro might be a political success, but it failed to be the economic engine. Even the first years of the introduction, when we were preparing for it in the 90s, the economic growth in the European Union was already under the economic growth of the United States. Against that before, in the 50s and in the 60s and even the 70s, the economic growth in Europe, what is now the European Union, was much higher than in the United States. And it is also interesting now that after the crisis of 2008, the economic growth in the United States was much faster, so it means that the recovery from the crisis was much faster in the United States than in Europe. And I calculated that what would happen with the European GDP if in Europe the GDP would grow in the same rate as in the United States. And you can see the differences. And the difference is now 1 year not accumulated. 1 year the difference is 800 billion euros. So it is interesting because if you listen to the debates about the yearly budget in the European Union, you can recognize that the politicians are debated on such kind of sum of money like 2 or 3 billion, and it is much more than 100 times more. It is very interesting that until the politicians are debating on small things, they make mistakes which cause much more harm. Let's go further. But that this was the result of the introduction of the euro is not a surprise. A lot of economics, I can say that everybody who understands how the financial sector works said that it is impossible to introduce a common currency until we are not a common state, a unified state. And I used to, in Hungary, when I give lecture or write about this topic, I very much quote the Nobel Prize winner in economics, Milton Friedman. He said, just before the introduction of the euro in 1997 to the Wall Street Journal, that the euro will fail. And I read only the last sentence from this quotation, that political unity can pave the way for monetary unity. Monetary unity imposed under unfavorable conditions will prove a barrier to the achievement of the political unity. So it means that first political unity, and then you can introduce a common currency, but you can't change to the opposite this route. And actually this happened. Milton Friedman died probably around 2006, but if he were alive, he could say that, no, I have said it. So he was right. But everybody else know this problem. There is a Belgian economist, Paul de Grauw, I don't know whether somebody knows it, he is a professor at Leuven, and has a similar opinion. And well before the financial crisis, he wrote an article in the Belgian daily, the Morgen, and he said, and I will read once again, that political union is the logical end point of a monetary union. If the political union fails to materialize, then in the long term, the euro area cannot continue to exist. There is only not a single monetary union that has survived without political union. Large free trade area remains the only feasible option for Europe. And I will repeat this because now England wants to leave the European Union. And England has a lot of reason for that, but also a lot of reason to remain. But this is what real experts say, not the politicians. Politicians are saying everything. What is their interest? But if you are an expert from the experience, international experience for decades, or from the Asian times and from everywhere, you came to the point that the only option for Europe under the nowadays circumstances is only a free trade area, which actually is what Nigel Farage, the leader of the United Kingdom Independent Party, says. So this is the reality. is not on the screen, but I should like to speak a little bit that there was time when the leaders of the European Union were thinking in a real way on the integration. And in that time, it was 1977, they worked out a study, it was the McDougall report. McDougall was a Scottish economist, and with a small group of economists, he worked out a study that what would happen if we were integrated together. And they took the examples of several unified states like France, for instance, and federal states like Germany, United States, and so on. And what they studied that how much money is redistributed in these countries to develop the less developed regions. And they came to the point that if you proceed with integration, more and more percent of the GDP you should centralize and relocate develop the less developed regions. And he said that at the beginning, probably it is enough 2 and 3% of the GDP. When there would be a common money, monetary union, it needs 5-7% of the GDP. And finally, when you reach a federal state, it needs at least 20-25% of the GDP. And now, probably you know that the common budget of the European Union, because we are already in the stage of the monetary union, it means that we would need 5-7% to allocate to develop the rest developed regions of the European Union, but there is only 1% budget, and even this 1% is kept by the net contributors that it is too much. So they want it to decrease. So it is impossible, on the one hand, to integrate these countries, on the other hand, don't finance the problems which comes from the integration. Look, the problem of Greece. If there is a free market for the most developed and the less developed countries, you know, it is, and you don't want to allocate the money, it means that the less developed countries will be poorer and poorer, while the most developed countries have more income and will become richer. Not the people itself, but those who actually manage the policy. Because if you look, for instance, at the German salaries, you know that in the last 20 years there was no increase in the average workers in Germany. So this is a very serious problem, and this is the contradiction which we have to address. And now I arrive at the problem of the sovereign money. So until we are bound by the treaties, especially for the Maastricht Treaty, which describe how national banks should work. And there is in the treaty, this is the 123rd paragraph, the treaty for the not financing but the functioning of the European Union. Until it is not changed, you cannot do anything against this financial system. So the first step is how somehow to change. But now I should like to shortly speak about the Hungarian experience, but I will go back because I should like to add what I have said, that it is a very interesting question that what kind of Europe you want. Actually, in Hungary, I already worked out 15 years ago the study what the Hungarians want, how they imagine the European Union. This was the study with which I could get a job in the European Parliament. But now, once again, I should like to carry out this study. Naturally, we have involvement in other countries, so I invite you, if it is possible, to participate in such kind of research, naturally including the positive money, that how can we reach that positive money can be applied in the European Union, what are the preconditions for that, what kind of Europe do we want? We have to think over, especially if England will leave the European Union. But also if it will remain, because whether leave or remain, it will change the course of the European development, the development in the European Union. No, and shortly in Hungary. So at first I didn't understand the positive money, but later I came to the point that it is that the same money which was in Hungary during the socialism. Because there was no banking system, there was only one central bank, and all the financial matters were managed in the central bank and was only one state-owned saving banks. So actually it was public money or positive money. And somebody, in the morning, somebody raised a question that probably this positive money can create inflation. And I would add from the Hungarian experience that not only inflation, it creates not only inflation, but if there is a price control, it can create a shortage of economy of shortage. That when you have money but you are unable to buy something. So it is well known for the older people here from the socialist countries. And but the Hungarian experience was also later, when the production has grown up, that it is possible to handle in such a way this thing that there will be no shortage and there will be no inflation. So I would say that this positive money is possible. So there are examples what you can mention for that. We have a lot of problems now with membership, and especially that we have to carry out austerity policies and so on. But in some places in Hungary, there is experiments with the local money. And I should like to speak a little bit about this experience. There is a medium-sized town in the western side of the country, close to Vienna, which is close to Sopron. It was the first town who introduced the local currency, and it somehow it works. It has not so much significance from economic point of view, but it is very significant to bring together the society, and it is very important. So I think that the moral side of this whole financing system is at least as important as the economic side. Now I want to show that this local money. The upper one is the money of the National Bank of Hungary. It is 540, and down there is this local money, which name is take franc. Take franc means blue franc. Actually, it is the name of the famous Hungarian one, which is produced there. And it was introduced, and I think that it was a little bit of success, not too much, because to tell the truth, the central banks and usually the neoliberal economists are against, and the neoliberal economists have the much influence on the economic policy of Hungary. Finally, the conclusion is that if you want sovereign or public money or positive money, we have to change the treaties. Without treaty changing, it is impossible to reach. So, if we work out a different kind of imagination for the positive money, it's very good. But we also have to work out the imagination how to introduce, how to persuade people, for instance, in the European Union, in the European Parliament, that it is a possible way for financing, and everybody would benefit from from each probably except the money magnates. I mean that the leaders and the owners of the big banks. If we want to find a solution, it is not enough to work out this imagination about the positive money. We also have to work out together, probably, to organize myself further and further how to introduce, how to persuade the majority of the European citizens that we have right and everybody will be better off if we can introduce this positive money. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you for a lot of interesting information, and now